Okay.
Cool.
There we go. It's fighting me here. There we go.
Hey guys, I'm Jane Irwin.
Sharon McKenzie.
And so every Tuesday we're getting on here and trying to provide some value. It's provided by the Virtual REI Academy. And basically just we have a bunch of investors who are practitioners. It's not just sitting behind a table pretending to invest. We all invest. We have several courses on the site. So it's just to help you guys be better investors, and helps all of us having a little community. So we're just trying to do these Tuesdays and get up to speed on different topics. And some of the topics are not like that much exciting. Insurance is, not very exciting, but it gets exciting when you don't have the right insurance. So just something to think about. We don't have a lot of experience with insurance we just know how to insure them, but just some steps that you can take to make sure you have the right insurance and that you actually have insurance. So if something does happen, then you know how to deal with it.
We'll try to spice it up with some stories as we go.
We got stories.
As real estate investors, there are several key factors to considering when insuring your residential houses to protect yourself against various risks. Types of insurance, the two most important ones that you really want to make sure you have on your houses are liability and property damage. Liability it can protect you in the event someone is injured on your property. You're found in liability for the injury. It can cover medical expenses, legal fees, and other costs associated with lawsuits. And the property damage is protecting you against natural disasters. Sometimes, depending on where you live, like we're in Florida, you got to worry about the hurricanes and the tornadoes, thefts. This can also protect against vandalism, fire, and other types of damage. And then you want to make sure that you have supplemental insurance, especially if you live in areas where different belts around the nation that sometimes there you got hurricane alleys, tornado areas, flooding. California, you have the wildfires. So you might want to get like flood insurance, windstorm, that sort of thing. Like I said, it's from high winds, tornadoes, hurricanes. Sometimes just the regular property damage won't cover it. And then there's also an umbrella insurance if you really want to be protected and you're kind of worried about, things and you're on the side of caution, err more on the side of caution. That gives you an extra layer of protection above and beyond your standard insurance policy. This coverage can protect you against larger claims and lawsuits that'll exceed the limit of your regular insurance. And it's important to regularly review and update your insurance and your policies to make sure that they still meet your needs. And as your portfolio grows, you may need to increase some of your coverage along the way or add extra coverage of like when the property values go up, you want to add more coverage to your insurance. And by considering these key factors, you can protect yourself and your homes against a wide range of risks and potential losses. And it's important to work with reputable insurance providers who can help you identify your specific needs and provide you with the coverage that you need at the time. Then there's other types of insurance, such as builder's insurance. Builder's insurance, also known as construction insurance, it's an insurance policy that covers your real estate when it's in the construction or renovation phase. It's designed to protect against losses that may occur during that process, such as damage to the property, theft of materials, injuries sustained by workers, or pedestrians just walking across the job site. And it includes property damage. It can cover damage during weather, fire, vandalism, theft, materials, liability. It can cover for injuries sustained, like I was saying, the workers, they get hurt on the job, as well as any third-party injuries or injuries that people sustain while on the construction site or in the house while it's under construction. And also for missing or lost tools and equipment on the scene. And also, a lot of people don't know this, but it can also, you can add delayed completion. Builders insurance can provide coverage for delays in the construction process. And we all know that that leads to loss of income and additional expenses that the investors have to incur. Investors who are taking significant renovations or construction projects on their investment properties should consider builders insurance to protect their investments during the construction process. And a story that we knew somebody who had the builder's insurance on their home, and after they completed the construction and the rehab on it, they forgot to switch it over to liability and property damage and had a renter in place. Well, the house flooded out, and unfortunately, since they didn't have the right insurance, and they lost. They did not have any coverage at all, and they didn't get any money out of the deal at all. So it's really important. I know that, we get carried away, and sometimes we start going and the ball starts rolling, and we get more and more houses in our portfolio, and then some get left behind, or we forget about things. So sometimes that's why it's important to have a bookkeeper or somebody else looking in on things, or have meetings every week to look through your portfolio and houses to make sure you are covered, protected adequately.
Sorry, I got a little bit of a cold. So the renter's insurance, landlords are not legally required to make them have insurance. We like to make the tenants have insurance. One, it's, you don't want to be responsible for their stuff. And it just provides, sometimes if making them have renter's insurance, then they're also going to take care of your stuff a little bit better. So renter's insurance is just something the tenant can get. It's protecting all their stuff. It also protects the landlord, and it's easy to implement. We don't have anybody we specifically direct people to, but it's fairly cheap, maybe $10 to $15 a month or something. But it just protects all their stuff. We put that in our lease, and then that is actually a violation of the lease if they don't get renter's insurance. You don't always find out about it. We had one tenant who was supposed to had it initially. If they don't keep up with it, sometimes it'll go south. So they didn't keep up with their payments, and then actually had a situation where during the hurricane, their stuff got flooded, and we had a little bit of water damage in the house, and they didn't have their renter's insurance. So A, it was a violation of the lease. B, they didn't have any recourse because they were required to have it, and C, their stuff some of their stuff got ruined. So it's just, it's good for everybody just to make them have it, and we require that.
And they even thought that our insurance would cover their property.
Which at the end of the day, they did not, because they asked us if it was in the lease. So we had to provide the lease that, clearly showed they were responsible and they should have the insurance. So that came back to bite them as well.
And we, not that we're promoting or we work for NRIG, but we use the National Real Estate Investors Group, NRIG, and it's a provider of insurance solutions tailored for real estate investors.
And we like NRIG. We have shopped around other places, and at the end of the day, they're normally the most reasonable. Florida is very, very, very hard now to get insurance. At some point, NRIG stopped covering things in Florida right after the hurricane. I think they're back to insuring them. But it's just very easy to get. Once you have an account, you go on the website. I can add a house, as we're at closing. So that's one of the most important things. When you're at the closing table, you already want to have your insurance lined up, because if you close the house at 2 p.m. and they hand the keys over, and 2:30, a tree falls on the house, or it catches on fire, or somebody breaks in, and you didn't have the insurance, guess what? Oh, well. So we like to have the insurance already lined up. I generally do it the night before we're going to close a house. And that way I can just go right in the system. I can put the date that we want it to start, it's already approved, and I got the estimate back, and then we just, it's very easy with them. So I guess that's why we keep it. We have shopped it around. I don't know if anybody else has any any better insurance companies that they use, or I know Steve Laray's up in Maryland. So I'm not sure like if his rates are better or different things. It's easier for us because we're virtual and we have properties all over the country, which they insure all over the country. So it's worked out for us.
And it is so easy. You just get online and just fill out a form and you, what half hour later, somebody gets
Yeah,
back
it's
to you.
yeah, we have a rep that they'll call us and give us the quote, and then we can either accept it or not.
And they handle claims quick and easily too. It's just, we've had a good experience with them.
But welcome to hear if anybody else has any
Yep.
other insurance companies or
Absolutely. We
any better ones.
always like to hear different insurances and different ideas and get different referrals. This is
I'll
one
tell
of
you
our,
what,
oh,
this is Jason. I would say that use a broker right from the beginning. That was my big mistake. They save you a lot of money, time, and hassle. I always tried to do it myself in quite a few years, and it was just a big, huge hassle. And I think brokers are really worth it. That's the way to go.
Cool.
thank you,
Thank you.
Jason. Our experience, I mean, it wasn't a good story, but it turned out the insurance process within RIG turned out really well. We have rental properties in Gary, Indiana. And unfortunately,
Yeah, when you wake up at 4:30 to 6 with missed calls, text messages, from everybody from insurance companies, police, fire department in a different state, something bad happened. So that was this particular house. And this was a domestic situation where
gone wrong.
yeah, she was our renter and boyfriend she was letting stay there. Told her he was going to torch the house. Thank God she had the common sense or had something that told her to actually get out of the house. So she took her and her small child, went to stay with somebody else. He came back at 3:30 in the morning and torched the house. So luckily she was out of the house. But as you can see, it was pretty much demolished and yeah. So luckily we had insurance and luckily we had the right coverage.
And adequate
And
insurance.
yep, so it was and this was one that we could have actually kind of fell through the cracks because we, initially had it as a rehab and then it was a rental in there. So, we didn't add for, if we hadn't added for the extra what rehab we did it because we initially did it as, just putting some carpet and paint and what other stuff in there. And then, obviously the value went up, plus the value in Gary, Indiana went up a little bit. So, just paying attention to those small details, we made out okay because if we would have left it as is, if the house was valued at say 30,000 and now it was worth 60,000, if we hadn't added that extra insurance, we wouldn't have been covered for that.
And thank God nobody was hurt and the family escaped there. And we keep reaching out to see if he became, got
Got
caught and incarcerated, but
Yeah, we haven't heard
haven't
anything.
heard
'Cause
anything,
they
which
were
is
they were
scary.
still doing the investigation. I got, and this happened back in 22.
And you want to talk about the riots?
Yeah, just just some other stories, and a lot of what we base our stuff is stories. Somebody in Baltimore back with the Freddie Gray incident, they didn't have the right kind of insurance that, so their whole house got demolished from the riots, and basically they didn't. And I don't know what the phrase was, but the insurance policy didn't allow for civil unrest, I guess, or whatever. So their house actually wasn't covered and then like they had a whole bunch of damage and the insurance policy wouldn't cover it. So it's just, small details with insurance. Again, it's, not the most exciting thing to have to do is get insurance on your house, but you always have to make sure, depending on where you are, if you're in a high theft area, if you're in a high, obviously we're in the hurricane area. And even, just last year with Hurricane Ian, we learned a thing or two because one of our rental houses is not in a flood area. So it's, in the right area, but we didn't have flood insurance because we didn't have to. We didn't, think it was necessary. Well, we actually did have, obviously Ian was a Category 5. Nobody accounts for that, but we had some flooding. And at the end of the day, the adjusters came out, and because, this much of the area was flooding, they didn't cover all the damage that was done from the flooding. They would cover from the wind up, but, they were down to getting their ruler out to, say 1 foot is flood, and we're not going to cover these 5 screws and this plywood and this drywall or whatever else, yet we'll cover what happened with the wind. So just, extra coverage is good. We know a lot of investors that they self-insure, which is, basically, just sitting back, gonna take the hit. And, maybe you put money away for damage that's gonna happen, but at the end of the day, most people don't really do that. They, it's a good idea, but, they don't do that. And, we heard of an investor down here that did that. He self-insured, had some significant hurricane damage, and now he's like kind of struggling to get the roof on and get some other stuff done because, you always think you're going to save for a rainy day or you're going to put X amount away, but it doesn't always happen. And like he's struggling with his, probably $350,000-$400,000 house to get the money for the repairs for his rental.
Exactly. And make sure you understand your deductibles too. Everything. Read the contract line by line like you would anything else.
So, so like we're not insurance agents, brokers, know a ton, but you just, the biggest thing is pay attention to details, try to get the best price you can, make sure everything's in there. If you're even close to water, it might be worth that extra little bit to get the flood insurance. At the end of the day, it's not that much, and, you're going to be covered if a hurricane happens, or, make sure you rehab, if you rehab something, make sure you upgrade to get that extra amount. We did 2 flips in Sarasota here last year, and it was actually right before the hurricane that they got finished. We remembered to make that call and say, it was worth this, now it's worth that. And because we upped the insurance, we had a little tiny bit of, like a shed and some other stuff kind of damaged, but nothing took it off the market for a couple of weeks. But we did have that extra coverage, so it, we were covered with the shed that blew away and some other minor little soffits and stuff. But luckily, we remembered to call and say, hey, now this house is worth 200,000 or 220 when it was worth this before.
And then sometimes you want to even decide whether you want to put in the claim or not, because if it's something small and the deductible's higher, you don't want to keep making claims, and then you will be dropped or your insurance rates will go up. So that's also a consideration.
Yeah, and we actually did that with our house in Englewood. At the end of the day, between the deductible and this, they were gonna, and their repair costs, what they said it should be, was nowhere close to what it would have been. And at the end of the day, it was like, well, we have other houses here and we don't want them to cancel that. We just put in the claim for the firehouse that, so that would have been 2. It wasn't really going to help us. So it was just better to do the repairs ourselves, figure things out, and not put the claim in with that one for them to send us a check for like $1,300. At the end of the day, that didn't really help us out. And it was probable that they would have canceled all our Florida houses. So that's our little spiel with insurance. Anybody have any questions
or advice or things that
they had, stories they have?
I appreciate that tip, Jason.
So how much builder's insurance will cost generally, like percentage, like wise?
Sorry?
The price of like a single family house or something.
It depends. Our houses in Florida are more 100 and something a month. houses in Gary, Indiana, obviously are a lot different. So we're probably 40 to 50. We have some different ones in we have a few in Cumberland. They're around the same. So it depends on the price of the house. It depends on
The size, the
the
price,
size and
what it's worth. And
different things, what
yeah.
it's worth, what you actually get with it.
so you're probably looking at anywhere from 50 a month to maybe 140 a month with average single family
that-
homes.
Is that for the landlord's insurance or is that for the builder's insurance?
That would be for the regular
Yeah, like the rentals and with
the liability and property damage coverage and maybe some flood.
I don't know if all the insurance companies do that again, or we're kind of with NREG, so they actually you can pay a little bit extra to be covered if your tenants don't pay. We typically don't get that because just of the way we do things, it's extra insurance, and we're pretty good about getting them to pay. At least the ones in Gary, Indiana, we have a very good property manager. So the ones that we think we have a good property manager, or they're good tenants, or they've been around, we don't usually. And I don't know what the cost is that would make that. I'm sure during COVID that would have been a good thing to have for most people when folks weren't paying.
Got a horror story for you about insurance.
What happened?
A property owner bought a rental property next to my house, and before they even switched it over from the auction to get insurance, of course the tenants were being evicted, and within a week they had burnt the house up, which caught my
Oh,
house
Lord.
on fire.
Whoa,
And-
goodness.
And they didn't even get any insurance, and my insurance company couldn't recover. So
Oh man.
Wow.
Wow, I've not heard of that before. Geez. Can you go after them civilly, or
I'm working on that.
yeah?
That's a long hill decline.
It's true.
Yeah, and that's one thing we're pretty sometimes it's even before closing. Like I've already been on the website, put the address in, and we're all ready to go. So, even sometimes I know we haven't closed and we already have it insured. I don't know how that would work, but it's like we've already
Like the
had
day
that
of closing.
set in motion the day before or 2 days before, because sometimes closing gets delayed and I've already started. And then NREG will just go back and put the date in that we close, but it's better to have it beforehand than not at all.
Especially with houses that are occupied.
Yeah, it should have been empty, but that's another long story.
Crazy.
Oh, so they shouldn't even been in. Were they squatters or just they were renters that they
Yes,
didn't get rid of?
they were squatters, and I had let the real estate company know about it, but they told me. Now I'm calling them, telling them that there's people living in there, and they telling me it's empty. So
Okay.
Wow.
Well, that's actually good for you, like civil wise.
Because you have
That
proof that you
you made
reached out.
notification of it.
Exactly.
So I have a couple of kind of notes here, if that's okay, Jane?
Sure,
Sharon?
absolutely.
So one of the things that I think that I got caught with a long time ago is I took over a property on a creative deal, so stepped into the loan. Not stepped into the loan, stepped into the payments, but it was still the same owner. And I didn't know at that point that the owner needs to change their policy from a homeowner policy to a landlord policy, or you're not covered. And that then you, as kind of in control now, can get named as an additional insured. But it's important that if you are doing some of these creative deals where the original homeowner stays on the deed, that it has to get switched to a landlord policy.
That's a great point.
The other thing I would say when you're kind of back there, in the very beginning, when you're talking about builder's risk, and covering workers and stuff, that am I correct that that covers you in case the contractor you have doing this doesn't have workers' comp? So it's kind of protects you, but it doesn't actually protect somebody else's workers. Is that correct?
Yeah, as best as we know, yeah.
That's how we understood it as well.
Yeah, I think because I think some people think that builder's risk covers covers other people's if there other people are coming in, and a lot of these people that do work on the side do not have insurance, do not have workers' comp. Or if they don't cover their workers like they should. And so you can find yourself in a lot of trouble if you don't have something like a builder's risk that's going to cover some of that stuff. They can come after you. So I think that's just kind of a point I was wanting to make. And every time I'm picking up another piece of another type of insurance, one of the first things I always look at, and I know you do too, is the deck page, the front page, with particularly the exclusions. What is and what isn't covered, because it's in the exclusions that you find yourself in trouble.
Exactly,
Right.
yes. And you made a good point about when you take over a loan and switch over the insurance. We've even have other investors, when they do that, they'll switch completely out of that insurance and get a different, they don't want to keep that same insurance company in place. They want to get another insurance company, which I'm not sure why they are, why their decision, why they choose to switch to a different, maybe they've have one where it's better rates, or they're used to using that insurance company, but they say they never stick with the same insurance company when that happens.
Well, a lot of times I do, but it's homeowners policies are different than landlord policies, obviously.
Right. But they don't
So
even want to use the same company. I don't know why.
interesting. I don't either. Good. I don't know either.
But sometimes,
Next time we'll ask.
yes,
So why
sometimes
do you
in
do that?
Florida, you want to use the same company because it's so hard to get insurance in Florida that once you have it insured, that you want to stick with a company that's going to do that, and then just transfer it, like you said, over to a different policy, the appropriate policy.
Anybody else have any questions?
How does pet insurance, if the renter has a pet and doesn't have an insurance, something happens, and who is liable for that if something happens?
That's a good question. We've not run into that.
That's why it's good to have on the lease, narrow it down to a certain breed of pet, where you exclude certain, what they call vicious or aggressive breeds. And also, if you don't allow them to have animals and they sneak one on anyway, then they would be liable. But obviously, if you allowed animals, then you know how the lawsuits go. It goes down the line. You would get sued. The animal owner would get sued, and all down the line how the lawyers go.
So yes, that's correct. But if I recommended my tenant to have a pet insurance, but if something it doesn't carry insurance, it's only recommendation. Sometimes we do check, but things could change, and if it gets to a point like he doesn't have insurance, and is the landlord liable for it, or what happens?
Well, if you have it as part of your lease agreement that they're
Yes,
supposed to
they
have the
should
insurance,
maintain insurance.
then you're in a better position. That I would definitely have, where that way you're covered. You're in a better position where it was required and they went against the lease.
Okay.
So this
I
is Nicole. We do a couple of things. Number one is that most insurances in the exclusions are going to tell you what breeds are not included. So those are going to be exclusions to your insurance. So if one of those dogs is on is in the property and something happens, your insurance isn't going to cover it because it's an exclusion to your insurance. So what we typically do is, because we tend to allow animals, is that we make people have a rental policy that covers pets. And it covers pets for damage and it covers pets for liability. And we always have one or two companies that that do that. And then we just have, we're in quarterly looking at preventive maintenance. And if there's evidence of an animal, I mean, that's on our preventive maintenance checklist. Is there an animal there? Check. If there is, then one of the things we follow up on is there current rental insurance? And we make people show that. Does it fall through the cracks? Sometimes, sure. But it's worth trying to make sure that that happens, because your insurance isn't going to cover it either if it's one of the type of animal where there's an exclusion. So I guess that's just kind of how we handle it. And by the way, for those of you who are looking for other income streams, you can sell insurance, renter's insurance, pet insurance on your sites, on your at your properties, and get a little tiny commission. So you can just add that to your other income stream kinds of stuff.
It's a great idea. So I
Okay.
guess when you do those quarterly checks, and if they have like a dog that's not supposed to be there or a vicious breed, then you have to like start the eviction process, or
Yeah, we do. We also make sure our leases make it very, very clear that our insurance does not cover, we do not allow these kind of breeds. Our insurance doesn't cover it. And you recognize that if anything happens, you and you alone are going to be liable. That we don't allow these kind of pets on the property. Most of the time, you don't see what kind of animal they have. So what we mainly focus on is to make sure they have current renter's insurance that covers pets if something changes from quarter to quarter, right? And then when the pet insurance goes out, we try and make sure that we let them know that they have to show that their insurance is current, otherwise we do evict. Oh,
good.
so
Okay, thank you.
Shauna says, what is Shauna saying there? Her mother's going through this?
oh, Shanae,
Yeah.
pets in the property states no pets.
Go ahead, Sinead, chime in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's basically it. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The tenant is on a month-to-month lease, but the lease clearly states no pets on the property. And they have like a Yorkie and a pit-looking type dog. So they're gonna be getting evicted soon.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, so she's getting them evicted.
Yep. Yeah, she said this is her first time having a tenant, so she's not that well versed on the whole eviction process. So she's looking into it and trying to figure out what exactly she needs to do to get them removed legally.
Is that
Are you giving him the option of getting rid of the aggressive breed dog?
I don't think she's going to. They haven't taken care of the property. They're late with rent. So I think she's just gonna remove them from the property and find other tenants.
It's in Maryland, huh?
Correct. Yep. Parkville.
Yeah,
Well-
that's always, and sometimes we've that's like actually a good way to get people out that there's other things going on, and because typically it's like a 3-day quit here that you can send them a 3-day notice, but most people will go ahead and hurry up and pay, but it's like they're always late, and then that's one of the things, if you can see them with the pets or other violations of the lease, it's just then you have 3 or 4 things that it's easier to get people out that are problem folks anyway.
And I'm not an attorney, but I would say when she sends them the notice to vacate, I would put on there about the dog. That way they're covered. They know that the dog's there and they're getting them removed. So if something happens with the dog, that they can say that they gave them the notice, and that, that they knew, one of the reasons is because that aggressive dog was there. So that probably covers them. Covers the
Yeah.
owner of the home.
Yeah, she may mention that she was going to put in the notice, all of their violations, since they've been, in the property. So that's quite a few violations.
Right, perfect.
I will put
And thanks for being here. I know you're always working, so I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I'm usually getting ready for bed by now.
Yeah, there you go.
5 a.m. comes quick.
Yeah, it
Oh
does.
yeah.
It
Oh
does.
yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions or?
Yes, I have a
Sorry.
question, like, so regarding the flood, when I say flood inside of the home, due to a pipe break or something like that. And probably if it is caused by the tenant, what happens? Like, is the landlord liable for the insurances, or does it covered by the tenant's insurance, rental insurance?
You would have to prove that the cause, like if the tenant actually did damage it, and if it was on purpose, or, it would be hard to kind of prove. So it probably would, your insurance most likely would cover it. Unless, Nicole, do you have any other?
I didn't hear the first part of the question.
If a tenant like busted a pipe and it was and I guess the tenant was responsible for busting the pipe and it caused flood damage in the house.
So 2 things. One, if it is, if it is a malicious kind of thing, then we always do a move in, move out checklist of what the place looked like when they moved in, and then when they move out, and we take pictures. So that goes in your rental software, that you can have move in, move out pictures as well as a checklist. If somebody does something, if you can prove that it was good when they moved in and not good when they moved out, then that can get added into a judgment. It is also a reason for eviction. We also have in our leases that if something happens, like, something gets dumped down a toilet, that if something is caused by a
Negligent behavior
yeah,
for
something that somebody did, whether it was negligence or accident, but it was caused by them, that we will fix it, but that we will charge them for it. Now, when you talk about a broken pipe, what are we really talking about? What kind of broken pipe?
Yes, a malfunction of a shower, for example, something
Okay.
happened like that. Malfunction of a shower, like,
If it's small potatoes,
but that caused it, and they didn't turn off the shower, and it
okay, so
caused a flood inside of the
if
home.
if it's somebody who, a tub ran over or a shower ran over and you cause damage, that is what your insurance generally covers. Your insurance should cover things like that. and you're gonna have a heck of a time proving they did it intentionally.
Mhm.
So I don't, but that's covered under your kind of liability coverages, and well, not liability, under your premises coverages. So I trying to prove that something was done intentionally to cause harm, unless you have email threats or things like that, that's really a tough one. And probably their renter's insurance would cover damage to their possessions, but not to your structure. That's
Okay.
where your insurance is going to come in.
So, okay, based on that, like, if it is, for example, it's not renter's fault, but the flood happens and tenant's property get damaged. So the landlord's policy doesn't cover the tenant's property. Is that right?
That's correct. The
Correct.
landlord policy covers the structure. And that's one of the difference between a homeowner and a landlord policy. A homeowner policy, there's typically a part that is the structure and a part that is the
Personal
contents.
property.
Yeah, and the landlord policy just covers the structure. And that's where renter's insurance covers their personal property.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there is a way. I advise my tenants to take tenant insurance, but a lot of times they may or may not take it. If something like that happens, they would be at a loss with their furniture or whatever the property
Yeah,
may
they
have.
are going to be. And that's why, certainly in your lease, you should tell people they are required to have renter's insurance. Or if you don't want to do that, they're strongly advised. But then the next sentence says that and you get them to initial. I understand that if there is damage to the property, that my insurance does not cover or will not cover the contents of your home, your personal property. That will be on you.
Mm-hmm.
And we have people initial that. I don't know what
Okay.
else to say. Is that it's that's kind of your lease is kind of your it should cover those. It should mitigate a lot of the risks that you might have. And then when you move to month, if they're not on an ongoing lease, then you have something that says that the property rules are the same as the lease, and should you choose to not renew your lease and go to a month, your rent goes up to this, and you understand that all of the elements, all the requirements that were in the lease are still in effect, and you agree to abide by them.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
And I guess that's why we take the guesswork out of it. Like we don't, it's just you have to have it. And, if they don't have, there's really no way we can, short of
Track it.
calling their renter's insurance or making them send us a payment, but at least they're required to have it so they can't come back. Like, obviously the one house we had, they came back and said, well, it lapsed and now your insurance has to cover it. It's like, no, our insurance is not going to cover it. And, don't make your problems our problems. You didn't follow through with your insurance. So it was pretty cut and dry.
And like Nicole said, we had it on our lease. It showed that won't cover their renters insurance. Our homeowners insurance will not cover that.
And to be honest, if you don't make people get that, they're not going to get it. And it's more protection for them for $9 a month or 14, whatever it is, it's not that much. So, don't go to Starbucks a couple times and, get your insurance. That way, if something does happen, they're covered. So you're kind of forcing them, but you're protecting them as well.
So the
Yeah,
other
we have
thing,
that in.
the other
I'm
thing
sorry.
the other thing to maybe consider, and I don't know, this just popped into my head, is that if you get yourself where you can sell the insurance too, is that you could make that get them to agree that so I'm making this up, your renter's insurance is $15 a month, that you will sell them a renter's insurance policy and pay it on a monthly basis and raise their rents $20 a month. And then you just set it up where that's a prepayment for your tenants. Make sure they're covered. And again, if they choose not to accept it, then it really is on them. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt whoever was
No,
saying.
that's a great idea.
But you're underwriting the policy yourself. Does it need to have a tenant's consent or no?
No, you're not underwriting it. You're working with an insurance company, a renter's insurance company, and you are getting set up so that you can sell renter's insurance. So there's really no underwriting because we're not talking about.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
does it require a tenant's consent, or do we need to do with the knowledge of the tenant?
Say that again?
So if I sell the policy, that means tenant need to be aware that I'm selling this as part
yes, yes.
Mhm.
Because they would
Yes,
have to fill out a form with their items and that sort of thing, like
Yeah.
a breakdown.
Yeah, it's just like any insurance. They're going to fill out forms and you're going to help them and you're going to say, one of the things we offer is that we work with this insurance company. You're not required to work with them, but we provide to help people. We provide this company who provides renters insurance, and we can help you fill out the paperwork. But no, we're working with them, and we can for an extra $20 a month, we will make sure that we are paying your insurance if that's what you would care to do. And if you don't, then that's fine too. Just opt out.
Okay, yeah, great idea.
And sometimes that's easy, it's easier for them too. Like, and I just remember a storage locker that I was moving and had a storage locker for a short amount of time, and they had it right there. So all I had to do was fill out the form, added it to
Yep.
so they must have been selling it, and it was easier because I didn't have to go shop around for it. I could have found a better price, but time is money, and it
Yep.
was easier just to fill out the form. I had the insurance, I was covered, they were happy, and just easier.
And they know, it's a requirement of the lease to get insurance, so.
And a lot of people don't know some people don't know how to go about that, finding insurance and doing all that stuff. So. Cool. Any other questions, comments? Anything else?
We always have that you have to have renter's insurance within our lease, and then they add us as an additional interest. And with that, the insurance company has our contact information, so you'll know whether or not they have an active policy and when they didn't pay. And more often than not, within a couple of months, they don't pay. And at first I was chasing everybody down and reminding them and all that, and then I realized it just doesn't matter. So it's in the rent,
Right.
it's in there, so it is what it is. You can't start chasing everybody and the mother down. So
Yeah,
that's how we
a good
handle
point.
it. But having you as an additional interest, at least what's going on with the policy.
Gotcha.
It's a great
Good point.
Great idea.
Monte, did you get your gift card?
Yes, I did. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Enjoy your
Yes,
coffee.
yes. All right, I will.
Or a mocha or a grande vende, something. I'll go to Starbucks, so I don't know what they have.
I'm a cappuccino kind of guy.
There you go.
Fancy.
Yep.
Cool. Anybody else?
Tell us about next week.
Next week, we have a very good friend of ours. His name is Jose Garcia, and he is mobile home investor. Does not mobile home parks like you, Nicole. He does individual mobile homes within parks on their own land. He has different techniques and the way he structures deals. We've actually did deals with him in the past, and turned out great. He's from Georgia, but he's expanding to Florida,
Yeah, I
Georgia, the Carolinas.
I think he's gonna come down here for a little bit, and there's a lot of things in Fort Myers, and obviously with the hurricane, so helping out some of those kind of folks. But really, really dynamic fella. He went from a W-2 job and kind of built himself up with teaching him and getting some good coaching and helping other people out with sometimes mobile homes are a little bit easier and cheaper to get into. So it, for the rehab and different things, and he's kind of just carved out a niche with the mobile homes, and excited to have him here, and glad that he agreed.
At 7:30 next Tuesday.
7:30
next week.
Next Tuesday, brought to you by the Virtual REI Academy.
And Jane and Sharon, I put your email address in there if anybody wants to reach out if they have a question or something like that.
Okay,
Perfect. Thank you,
Yeah.
James.
Mhm.
All right, guys, if everybody's good for the night and no other questions, we'll be respectful of your time, and we start out this with 15 minutes and usually go a good hour, so that's good.
Nice
And we
job,
got-
you guys. Thank
Yeah,
you.
well done.
Thank you. Thank you for your input, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
have a great week, and hopefully we can get some good get a good audience for Jose, since he's taking time and coming out to help us out.
Okay, it's gonna be awesome. All right,
Yep.
everybody, have a great night. Stay safe.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
All right.